Good evening everyone, I am Vishal Salsekar and today we are going to discuss the News Today articles for 5th and 6th of October, right? So in today's discussion, we are going to cover 5 important articles in detail, which includes the article regarding PM-SETU scheme. We'll discuss regarding what this particular scheme is and what is the importance of this scheme, along with the fundamental aspects behind this specific scheme. The next article that we are going to discuss is regarding the landslides in Himalaya. So in last few days, we had discussed a lot of articles which were talking about the disaster and the specific aspects of the disaster management. Now in those things, whether it is cloudburst, whether it is any kind of urban flooding, there is an aspect of disaster. And then there is fundamental thing regarding the geography which is behind that particular disaster, right? So in this also the landslide related thing, because recently there had been landslide reported in Darjeeling. So we will discuss regarding the landslides in Himalaya, why Himalaya is prone to the landslides, right? The next article we are going to discuss is regarding the draft policy paper on the camels. Generally we are talking about, let's say, tigers or maybe lion or maybe any other species, let's say elephants. But the camel is one such species which is productive also. There has been recent decline in the population also, but not that much talked about. We will discuss here regarding the draft policy on the camel, right? The next article we will discuss regarding the India's first cooperative biogas plant. We will discuss regarding the biogas. We will discuss regarding the compressed biogas, right? And apart from that, we will discuss that how it will be useful for the countries like India, right? The last article in the main section, we will be discussing regarding the critical mineral recycling incentive scheme. Now this was discussed a few days back. I don't think so that it is more than a month that we had discussed this entire article, but today's article will be again a revision of that. So those who had seen that particular article regarding the recycling incentives for the critical mineral, when the government has launched this policy, that point of time we had discussed it entirely. So it will be a revision for you. So bear with me on that particular point. Then we are going to discuss in the personality news section 2 prominent personality, which includes Tirupur Kumaran and the Subramaniya Siva, right? So both the personalities from the Tamil Nadu region, and we will discuss about them. And then after that, there are certain other news in shorts, right? So this will be the pattern of discussion. So let's start the discussion with the very first news regarding the PM-SETU scheme. Now, what is the context? That Prime Minister has recently launched the PM-SETU, which is Pradhan Mantri Skilling and Employability Transformation through the upgraded ITIs. Now, few days back we had discussed the schemes like the Kaushal Vikas Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, or the schemes like Skill India Mission, because these particular schemes have completed 10 years since their launch, which was in 2015. So this is the 10th year of the appraisal of these particular schemes. Now in this, there have been further focus that have been provided on even upgradation of the existing structure like the ITIs, right? So in this particular scheme, Pradhan Mantri Skilling and Employability Transformation through upgraded ITIs, we are going to see that how it is utilizable and useful for the countries like India. Now from the UPSC's perspective, General Studies paper 2, which includes the topics like the governance, policy and associated aspects along with the polity aspects regarding this, right? So whether any specific policy decision of government, that particular thing has to be taken into consideration, and UPSC can ask the question regarding this. Apart from that, there is government policies, there are interventions, right? And specifically for those particular sections who are getting trained at the ITIs, right? And in GS paper 3 in the economy section, there is a very much relevance because these ITIs contribute to the industrial development. So it is obviously important from economy's perspective. So inclusive growth and the employment, which is getting directly impacted by these kind of schemes, is going to get a boost through these kind of schemes, right? So that's why it is important. Now, what is this PM-SETU? So whenever we are talking about any scheme, we know that the concerned ministry is very, very important from the prelims perspective, because that can be directly asked in the examination. So it is the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, which is the base ministry or which is the nodal ministry for this specific scheme. Whether you talk about Skill India, whether you talk about Kaushal Vikas Yojana, there is the Skill Development and Entrepreneurship Ministry, which is the nodal ministry. Now, see, when we are talking about skill upgradation specifically at the ITIs level, and ITIs are not established right now. They were there since inception, since the independence, like roughly 1950s onwards, we have the ITIs that are there. Right now, there are more than 15,000 ITIs that are there, and majority of them are privately owned ITIs. But problem is that right now the technological upgradation is the need of time. You can't run any specific industrial program through the obsolete technologies. So as and when the time passes, when the new technologies are getting incorporated in different sectors, there is a need to incorporation of those specific things even at the industrial training institutes level. And if those institutes are not going to incorporate those technologies, maybe machine learning, maybe 3D printing, maybe any other technologies like the artificial intelligence, which is gaining prominence day by day, and it is reflected in different things, whether it is quantum computing, whether it is aeronautics or any other thing, right? So those things, if they are relevant right now, the ITIs should also incorporate these particular technology. That's why there has to be a need for the skill upgradation, even the upgradation of the ITIs as far as the technological aspects are concerned, right? So in this PM-SETU scheme, what the things are going to take place? There will be an investment where the government is going to fund roughly 60,000 crore as a part of the centrally sponsored scheme. See, since ITIs comes under the ambit of the state government, so state government will also contribute their share, but the central government is predominantly putting up more money, resources as far as the implementation of the scheme is concerned, right? So 60,000 crore is the outlay, not necessary to remember that much, but yes, the name of the scheme along with what kind of scheme it is important from the prelims perspective. It is a centrally sponsored scheme, so you should have a brief idea about what the centrally sponsored schemes are. Now, what is the objective? Now, the objective, as I have suggested, that as the technology has upgraded, the ITIs themselves also have to upgrade in order to keep themselves relevant in the changing spectrum. That's why there is specific focus upon 1,000 government-owned industrial training institutes across India, and how these 1,000 government ITIs are going to build up upon, matlab aisa nahi ki new institutes are getting established, the existing ones, but there is a change of model which includes the hub and spoke model. So what this particular model is, generally try to understand it like this. So this may be a hub, which is a ITI. Now, this particular ITI is equipped with all the kind of technologies which is presently running, whether it is machine learning, whether it is cloud computing, whether it is any other technology, right? Now, when there is even the practical applications are going on, when there are trainers available who are equipped with the competencies of these technologies, now these type of 200 hubs are going to be created across India in the form of ITIs, and through these 200 hubs, there will be multiple spokes ke through some ITIs will be attached. So let's assume that if there are 200 hubs and 800 spokes, so total it will be 1,000, right? So 200 will be the ITIs which will be established as the nodal center, jahan par these particular ITIs will be equipped with all the best possible resources and all the best possible type of infrastructure or the abilities, including the human resources and the other technological resources. And through these hubs, there are other ITIs connected which will be gaining the technological coordination and technological support from these particular hubs. So roughly, if we can say, like from one, there are roughly 4 ITIs are connected. So like this, there will be through 200, there will be roughly 800 ITIs will be connected. So once the hub will be developed, the spokes are automatically going to get the development fruits, right? So this is the model that the government is talking about. This is the way they are going to get implemented. So the objective is to transform 1,000 ITIs into the modern industry aligned training institutions so as to make them or keep them relevant with the changing technology. Now, when we are talking about ITIs, what are the main components through which this particular scheme is going to get implemented, which is PM-SETU scheme, right? So now, when we have discussed already certain things, so there will be new and the demand driven courses. So let's say if the demand is for artificial intelligence, if the demand is for quantum computing, if the demand is for 3D printing, or if the demand is for any other new technology, if that particular thing is there, let's have the resources related to that and let the people train on those particular resources, because then only they are going to get the competitive edge. That's why these ITIs are going to get the new and the demand driven courses rather than the obsolete courses which are not going to put you in the best place in order to get those particular opportunities which the world is putting, right? Next is the special purpose vehicle. Now the special purpose vehicle, as one of the previous articles where we have discussed this concept. So for example, for this specific project, there is a pool that has been created where there are different stakeholders who have pooled their resources, and now through this particular special purpose vehicle, they are giving the investment, they are giving all the other kind of support to this specific project. So the SPV with the credible anchor industry partner. For example, let's say there is a company X who has done well in the artificial intelligence. They are going to collaborate with them. The special purpose vehicle is going to be created along with them, and that particular special purpose vehicle is going to support this ITI in order to implement the AI related schemes. Similarly, maybe for quantum computing, similarly maybe for aeronautics or any other thing which is developed in that particular domain, right? So along with the anchor industry partner, these particular ITIs are going to get benefits. So this is also going to provide the industry academia linkage, which is very, very important in order to implement any specific project. Next is the long-term diplomas, short-term courses, and the executive programs. Because see, when you are going for any specific kind of industrial training, the ultimate application is important, whether you are having the hands-on experience regarding that. If you are just going through the theoretical aspect, then obviously you are not going to do well necessarily in the industry. So that's why the hands-on experience should be there. So there will be diplomas which includes the long-term. Kuch courses ho sakte hain for which you will need the further understanding. For certain courses, certain short-term courses may be planned, and those courses are going to help you in order to make you industry ready. Sometimes even the executive program, maybe you are working with any specific firm and now you want to get the technological update regarding any other technology. So you can also get the executive programs also, along with keeping your existing jobs. You can also get trained into certain other domains. So like this also there will be availability of the courses that are there. Now, lastly in this is the 5 National Skills Training Institutes, NSTI, which will be developed as a center of excellence. That means these will be created as the model ITIs, jisko other ITIs can implement, they can replicate, and they can see that these are the model ones. And based upon this, we can also replicate the model of these particular ITIs. So where these are getting developed? Bhubaneswar in Odisha, Chennai in Tamil Nadu, Hyderabad in Telangana, Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh, and Ludhiana in Punjab. These are the 5 ITIs which are going to be developed as a center of excellence. Now, and we are a lot talking about the ITIs. Briefly we have discussed, but let's discuss further more about ITIs. So these are the industrial training institutes, right? And these institutes were not new. These were established in 1950s only, right? So the vocational education and the training they are providing, or they are considered as a backbone of this vocational education. That means the industry ready applications, or basically whatever things you are seeing that is going on in the industry, generally the training and support is being provided through the ITIs also, right? So this is their VET support के लिए 1950 से, under whose ambit this is? Under the state government's ambit these ITIs work. Now the overseeing of these ITI, that means who is doing the administration of ITIs? So there is Directorate General of the Training, DGT, which is overseeing these particular ITIs, and the ministry is the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. In the very beginning we have discussed about this. Now presently, as we have also discussed about the data, there are more than 15,000 ITIs, but roughly 78% of them are privately owned. That means roughly 22% are the government owned ITIs, and we are talking about in the PM-SETU where the 1,000 ITIs will be chosen and they will be developed in the form of hub and spoke model. Now, what are the utility for what are the schemes related to that? So, skill strengthening for the industrial value enhancement. So there will be constant upgradation that is needed for that. There is a strive scheme that is there. Then the model ITI development, again on the lines of the 1,000 ITIs which government has chosen as the model ITIs जिनको develop किया जाएगा उस तर्ज पर, right? And those particular ITIs को place किया जाएगा as a model for the rest of the country के ITIs के लिए. Next is enhancing skill development infrastructure in the northeast. So this is specifically concerning with the northeastern part of country because the comparative development of the industrial aspects in the northeastern region is comparatively lower. That's why the focus specifically has been provided on there also through this scheme. See. Okay. So this is regarding the ITIs and along with that the PM-SETU scheme. Now how UPSC had asked the question previously, they had asked the question in 2018 regarding this particular scheme related to the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. They had asked the 3 statements: flagship scheme, Ministry of the Labor and Employment. Then the other things: impart training, soft skills, entrepreneurship, financial digital literacy. Third point: aims to align with the competencies of the unregulated workforce of the country to the national skill qualification framework. So you have to choose the correct one. This is what UPSC had asked. Now this is the way UPSC can ask. Now here at the place of this particular scheme, there can be even PM-SETU that can be put, right? And the statements can be framed accordingly. So that's why these questions are there in order to help you to assess that how UPSC may ask the question regarding these schemes which we are discussing in the discussion. So you have to post the answer of this question in the comments, right? Next article is regarding the massive landslide that struck in the eastern Himalayan region. So when we talk about Himalaya, the Himalaya is very much vulnerable to the different type of events, or we can say disasters. And specifically when we talk about earthquake or when we talk about landslide, the Himalayas is very much vulnerable in this particular context. That's why whenever there is any such event, that is being covered in the newspaper across the nation, and that's why we have to also understand, because from the UPSC examination perspective, GS1, which talks about the geography of India, geographical features of India, and in that the Himalaya is very important. The Himalaya and the Himalayan fragility as far as the disaster is concerned, that is also important, because recently in a few months back there have been cloudburst and the series of cloudbursts that were there in the Himalayan region, and that's why again and again that region was in news. Even from GS3 perspective, disaster management, environment and ecology, even the climate change related aspects, this region becomes and is there in news a lot, right? That's why UPSC also keeps on focusing upon this region. So now what had happened recently? So recently in the Darjeeling region, Darjeeling and the nearby district like Kalimpong, there have been the massive landslides that have been reported, right? So whenever there are these kind of events happen, the static question even from geography can become more important, and the very basic questions like what is landslide, right? So you have to have an awareness regarding this, because if the UPSC ask in the means regarding this, अब हमें समझ तो आ गया वो concept, but when we start writing in words, we do not get the exact words what to write. So have a definition along with you. What are the factors that are causing the events like landslide? Basic factor क्या है? So you should have some kind of idea regarding those things, and you should be having conceptual clarity also. So when we talk about the landslide, it is basically a mass movement. Now in the mass movement, what all is moving? There will be debris, there will be even mud, there will be a lot of other things including the vegetation and all, along with other things that are moving downwards. Now under what influence they are moving downwards? They are moving under the influence of gravity. Now, why the land is sliding downwards? Obviously, there is one such force, which is the gravity. But that particular thing will work because there is certain binding agent. So, for example, just assume a scenario. Let's say this is a slope. Now, suppose if this particular land, which is part of this slope, if this is bound, that means there should be certain force which is keeping this particular thing intact. There may be vegetation where the vegetation's roots are keeping this particular parcel of land intact with this particular region. But what if there is extreme of events? Let's say there is rainfall, there is thawing of the snow or from the glacier, right? And in that particular case, what is going to happen? This particular region is going to get a lot of water content. So this region is going to get saturated. And similarly, this particular saturation is going to get downward side also. Now, in that case, if this particular glue in the form of, let's say, vegetation or any other thing, if this glue loosens and this land parcels becomes heavier because of the saturation of, let's say, water or maybe snowfall ke through, there is a water content that is getting increased. In that case, if the vegetation gets removed, there is downward movement or the mass movement of the land parcel. Now, isme debris and every other thing is moving downwards under the influence of gravity, and this particular event is the landslide. Okay? So, this is the landslide related movements. Now, when the landslide is happening, why we have to understand this from the India's perspective? Because when we talk about India, roughly more than 12% of the India's total region is landslide prone. So when we talk about this, roughly 12.6% of the land area is prone to landslides. And when we specifically talk regarding Himalayas, Himalayas are more vulnerable. When we talk about Himalayas, roughly 3/4 of the entire India's landslide occurs in the Himalayan region. What are the other hotspots? Other hotspot includes the region like the Western Ghats, right? But Himalayas is more prominent because roughly more than 3/4 of the landslide prone region, which is the highly prone to landslide, which is situated in the Himalayan region. Clear? Now, why the Himalayan region is more vulnerable to landslide? So, if you have already gone through some aspects of geography, you might have known that there is a movement of plate. So, on the northern side, there is a Eurasian plate, let's say like this, and from the southern side, it was the Indian plate which moved northwards. Now, when there was northwards movement, ultimately these plate crushed to the Eurasian plate and ultimately led to the upliftment of the young fold mountain in the name of Himalayas, right? So Himalayas का जन्म होता है वहाँ से. Now, when this particular plate is further pushed, अब जैसे जैसे ये plate और push हो रही है, there is further increase even in the heights of Himalaya because that particular fold is further getting increased, and because of which the Himalayas are further getting uplifted. And even apart from that, this is making this entire region tectonically unstable. When the region is tectonically unstable, this is going to cause even the earthquake. This is going to cause, as a resultant of that, there may be the landslides also. That's why the Himalayan region is comparatively more prone to the events like landslides. So when we talk about the Himalayan region, there are natural causes including the tectonic and the geological reasons, which includes the active plate boundary between the Eurasian plate on the northern side and the Indian plate on the southern side, and because of which when Indian plate is further pushing the Eurasian plate, that is causing the upliftment of Himalaya, and that's why there have been rise of the seismic activities which is causing even the events like landslide. Next is rainfall, because when we talk about the heights of Himalaya, that acts as a natural barrier. When the winds are not able to cross Himalayas, generally what will happen? That there will be orographic rainfall in the region of Himalaya. So when on the windward side there will be orographic rainfall, the land is going to get saturated on the windward side, and what is going to happen? Suppose karo, if this is the barrier, let's say this is the barrier, suppose karo, these are the winds which are moving, and when these particular winds are doing the rainfall, now this region is going to get saturated with water, and this region once gets saturated with water, the land parcel will become heavier, and there will be a tendency under the influence of gravity that will move downwards. So the rainfall and the extreme events, the seismic events like the earthquake that happens, the steep slope, because when the Himalaya is rising, जैसे जैसे height बढ़ रही है, don't you think so? Slope is also getting increased, and that is further causing the events like the landslide. Apart from that, poor drainage and the flash floods, because we have done a lot of construction. If you go to, let's say, the regions like Manali or maybe any other region further northwards, you will see there have been a lot of unregulated construction. When we are doing a lot of construction like this, eventually the nature is taking the toll, and all those things are getting removed eventually. So in that particular cases, there is impact on the drainage. For example, previously there used to be a river or the rivulet. Now there have been construction. After 4 year, 5 year, that entire river again passes through that region, entire construction wash away. So in that cases, there is even the further impact that causes the disaster. So the poor drainage and the flash floods also further increases the events like, or the severity of the events like landslide. When we talk about the anthropogenic causes, the unplanned construction that we are talking about, because that is the mix of the natural and the anthropogenic ones. Natural cause hoga wo aega. For example, the rainfall will be there, that will bound to be there. But when, because of the anthropogenic impact, when we are doing construction, when we are impacting the environment further, when we are causing more impact due to the climate change, all these things are going to impact these particular slides, and the events like landslide are going to get increased. Next is mining, land use change. These are also certain changes. For example, land use change may be overgrazing of that, so the vegetation is removed, and now whatever glue that was there, which was tying that particular land parcel to that region, when we are doing over, not grazing, but we are cutting down the trees, and that particular trees ke jo roots the previously, they bound that particular region through their roots, but now the roots are no more, so the land is washing away. So all these things, deforestation, encroachment, all these things are causing the events like landslides. Now when we have talked about the landslide, generally UPSC, when they ask the question, they ask about what are the NDMA guidelines or what are the government guidelines. So you should have a brief idea about what kind of guidelines are these. Now this map talks about the landslide zonation of India. Okay? So when you have to write the answer, you can make the map like this, a approximate map which talks about the Himalayan region. Specifically we are dealing with India, right? So these particular regions are highly prone as far as the landslide is concerned, and the other region, which is the Western Ghat region, some regions even in Eastern Ghat, but predominantly the Himalayas and the Western Ghat, which are the two prominent zones as far as the landslide are concerned. So what are the NDMA guidelines regarding landslide? So first is vulnerability and the risk assessment. So there should be proper risk assessment, that how much amount of population is going to get impacted if there is landslide. So a landslide zonation hona chahiye. There should be clear identification that this particular region lies in the high landslide prone region, so wahan par there should not be any further construction. If that is a low landslide wala region, there may be some regulated construction, right? So like this, there should be the entire country zonation. So this has been done through the help of ISRO and other agencies. There have been the zonation that are being done. Multi-hazard conceptualization. Now it's not like only landslide will happen. There will be certain times, there will be multiple events. For example, climate change is going on. Cloudburst is there, that is causing the urban floods. Simultaneously, there are other events including the landslide. So you should have a clear idea about what are the multi-disaster, all the multi-hazard which should be taken into consideration while doing any activities. Next is early warning. So like for cyclone we are doing, like for tsunamis we are doing, but landslide is one such thing. The prediction is not very easy, because it's not always about the amount of rainfall that is going to decide the landslide. There are multiple other factors which are not very easy to determine. That's why this is one such thing where we are lacking right now. The early warning ko aur robust kiya jana chahiye. That should be further robust. Next is the emergency preparedness and response. Certain things are going to happen. Hazard is bound to occur, but that hazard should not turn into disaster where the loss of life and loss of monetary things are there, right? So the emergency preparedness and response should be there in order to minimize any losses. Then the capacity building and training. So basically locals are very well equipped in order to deal with this situation. So public awareness, education, disaster knowledge network, incorporation of locals in order to deal with these situations. All these things should be taken into consideration. Lastly, there is a need for the legal framework for the landslide hazard management. There is already a legal framework for the disaster management related things, but specifically for the landslide, specifically in those states where the landslide is a very important issue, there should be a legal framework that is talking about what are the steps that need to be taken in order to deal with the issues like landslide, right? So these are the things that are based upon the NDMA guideline. Now, how UPSC had asked the question regarding the landslide, we have already discussed these questions previously. Disaster preparedness is the first step in any disaster management process. Explain how the hazard zonation mapping will help in disaster mitigation in the case of landslide. Now, exactly similar kind of question can again appear. So you have to have a clear idea about how that zonation is going to help. Define the concept of carrying capacity of the ecosystem relevant to the environment. Explain how the understanding of this concept is vital while planning for the sustainable development. Even this year UPSC had asked certain kind of question which are related to some extent to these, right? So you should have a clear idea about किस तरीके से UPSC question पूछता है. Next article is regarding the camel. So the draft policy paper on the camel proposes the National Camel Sustainability Initiative NCSI. Now right now it is a draft paper. This is going to alter later on maybe if there are any kind of alteration, but this is right now a draft paper. So keep a watch on this. Have an idea regarding the camel as a species and what this particular paper is talking about. In brief, thoda idea hona chahiye. Next time, whenever there will be further coverage, when there will be a proper declaration or maybe any scheme by government regarding camel, then at that point of time, you should have further more detailed idea about this particular topic. From the UPSC perspective, again, GS paper 3, environment, agriculture, biodiversity. So the conservation of the region, the environmental pollution, degradation, environmental impact assessment, because whenever we talk about biodiversity, whenever we talk about species, there are multiple things, not only environment, even the economic perspective say this topic is important, right? So that's why GS3 is the suitable thing, where whether it is the animal husbandry, whether it is related to any other species wala thing, this is important topic. Now when we talk about the draft paper on the camel. So this draft paper was released by the Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and the Dairying in consultation with FAO, which is the Food and Agriculture Organization. This thing can be an important aspect or the pointer from the prelims perspective, because generally UPSC पूछता ऐसे ही है. They will give you the ministry that this paper was related to which ministry. You have to answer this, right? So they can say the Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and the Dairying. That will be the correct answer. Now, what are the key highlights? Now, this particular draft paper, since it is a draft paper that talks about why we are talking about this species and what is need to be done in order to prevent the loss of this particular species or loss of the biodiversity. What this paper is highlighting, first, decline of population. So this paper says that substantial decline have been observed in the number of camel as a species. So previously in 1970s, there used to be roughly more than 11 lakh camel that used to be there. Now that species has declined substantially. Roughly 2 lakh around camels are remaining. So that says that roughly 75% decline has been there since 1970s to the present date. So itna decline ho chuka hai, that's why there is an urgent need in order to deal with this particular species, which is camel. Next is the driver who is leading to the decline of this species, because previously it used to be an important economic tool, because in the desert region, the camel used to be the prominent vehicle in order to move the people and the goods from one place to another place since the ancient time period. But what had happened then there have been development of the technology. So now more efficient technologies have been utilized. That's why the utilization has been reduced. And this is one such region. That's why the decline of the population of this particular animal is also there. So decline in the traditional economic utility. Then the loss of the grazing land, because the desertification से जो vegetation था, what vegetation was there, that is also getting reduced even in the desert region, and that's why there has been further decline in the population due to the lack of the feed availability. Next is the environmental stress, because the water strain, जो भी limited amount of water they are using, but there is need for utilization of water, right? Apart from that vegetation. So that particular environmental stress is there, and even the extremes of the temperature and the climatic condition is further increasing, right? Because of the climate change, wo extremes increase ho rahe, and sometimes even the camels are not tolerant to this particular kind of changes. Then the restrictive legal framework, because like the cows, buffaloes that are being utilized in as a part of the animal husbandry that much, but the camels ka comparatively restrictive utilization hota hai, and that is not popularized that much. That's why the availability of the product is also restricted, and that's why the utilization is also lesser. Underdeveloped market for the camel product. This is what the restrictive legal framework ka impact on the camel as a species. Now, what are the recommendations that this particular draft paper talks about? So, launching of the National Camel Sustainability Initiative. in future when the government will launch this kind of initiative, you should keep a track of that. So there should be the camel sustainability initiative, that how that particular camel population can be made sustainable, what kind of effort should be there, how that ecosystem can be preserved, how the extreme can be prevented, right? Apart from that, securing the grazing right. So whatever patches where the vegetation is available, the grazing right should be provided. There are certain communities which are dealing with the camels, so there should be the grazing rights available to them. Strengthening the dairy value chains for camels. So like for cows, like for buffalo, like for other species, there should be strengthening of the value chain. There should be a specific market that has to be created, not exactly like the jo market aap dekhte ho aaspas, not that market, but the value chain we are talking about, the supply chain of the camel related product, because a lot of product can be utilized from the camels also, including the wool also, including the milk also, right? Then the reviving the camel based tourism, because many such tourist places where the camels are still being utilized, but lack of basic avenues available on those particular region lead to the decline of the people who are going to travel to those particular places. That's why the camel based tourism ko aur promote karna chahiye. Sometimes there is a debate on the ethical domain, the environment, the kind of tourism or the monetary availability along with the animal related cruelty, right? So there has to be a balance between them. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि the community should suffer completely, right? And also the animal welfare also, right? Introducing the veterinary and the genetic conservation program. So these are the things that the report is talking about. Now, when the report is, or the draft paper is giving an idea regarding camel, the camel as a species is also important, and UPSC had asked the question about this. So certain important pointers regarding camels, so ship of the desert, right? So ship of the desert, it is also known as 90% are found in the Gujarat and Rajasthan, because these are the places which is hosting the desert region mainly. The pastoralist communities like Raika, Rabari, Farkani Jat and Manganiyar, these are the prominent communities which are doing the herding and all the other things associated with camel. Now the characteristics includes that they are habitual of the extremes, whether it is the lack of water, whether it is lack of vegetation, even the thorny shrubs or the other vegetation which other species might not be utilized. The camels are habitual to utilize those things, and even let's say there is the water scarcities in any specific place, so they are habituated to those particular extremities. That's why they are still surviving despite the extreme conditions, right? The camel's hump, generally there is a misconception associated with that in the hump there is the water storage. The storage or the availability of water is there in their bloodstreams, but the hump is basically hosting the fat, and that is being utilized or converted into energy as and when there is a need, right? So the hump is main storer of the fats which provides the energy whenever they need food and all, right? Ecological role mein low water needs, selective grazing habits, soft padded hooves, not exactly hooves but the soft padded legs ka jo niche wala hissa hota, that particular thing is there, and that's why they will be able to move in the desert smoothly. Help to maintain the vegetative diversity, right? Because when they are eating something, sometimes the seeds are being spread across the region, and that leads to the diversity and all. Apart from that, prevent the desertification also, because they are not eating everything, right? And even they are acting as a prominent role, or they are playing an important role in order to spread those particular seeds, and that is leading to the further development of the diversity. And even their dung enriches the soil in the desert region, further makes that productive to some extent, right? This is about the camel. Now when we talk about the key camel breed, just एक idea होना चाहिए आपको that which particular type of breeds are there. So prominently when we talk about breeds, there are two specific breeds that we have to talk about. First is the dromedary cattle. Now camel, in that particular case Bikaneri, Jaisalmeri, Mewadi, Rajasthan mein, and Kutchi and the Kharai in the Gujarat region. These are the prominent species of the camel. Now Bikaneri, as the name suggests, in Rajasthan, strength and the endurance ke liye famous hai, right? So the cattle pulling, the cart pulling and all these things ke liye, like cattles are being utilized. So here in the desert region, the camel is being utilized. Then the Jaisalmer region mein, these particular species are known for their stamina and speed. So generally for the safari and all purposes ke liye, these are being utilized. The Mewadi, so also again in Rajasthan, known for its milk yield. When we talk about Gujarat, Kutchi, strong broad breed for the ploughing and the carting, right? So as a generally you are seeing on the plain region or the other regions where like you are seeing horse. So there that particular role is being played by camel. Kharai camel, which is available in the Gujarat, adapted to the coastal and the mangrove ecosystem. Like regarding this, UPSC had asked the question, I think in 2016 mein, right? Double hump Bactrian camel, so it is found in India, but found exclusively in the higher altitude region, which is specifically in the Ladakh region. So double hump, jiske do humps hote hain, right? So that is also available. Now this was the PYQ regarding the uniqueness of the Kharai camel, which is found in India, asked in 2016. Capable of swimming up to 3 kilometers in the seawater, survives by grazing on the mangroves. It lives in the wild and cannot be domesticated. Write the answer in the comment section to have an idea regarding this. Okay. Next is regarding the India's first cooperative multi-feed compressed biogas plant inaugurated in Maharashtra. Multi-feed means there is no such one thing only which is fed to that generate that particular biogas. There are multiple type of things. Agricultural waste ho sakta hai, other type of residues, maybe there any industrial waste which is coming out as a form of biomass. Jo bhi biomass ho sakte hain, those particular things are getting fed into as an input to this particular plant, and then the output is available in the form of the biogas, which is later on compressed in order to develop the compressed biogas. Right. So this is inaugurated in Maharashtra. Now from the perspective of examination, again, the economy, environment, energy, along with that even agriculture, because we are utilizing the agricultural residue. So issues related to the direct and indirect farm income, waste to wealth initiatives, then paper to governance and the policies related things. That's why this particular topic is important. Now, when we talk about the compressed biogas, in order to understand this, we have to have an idea regarding the biogas, right? And then later on, the biogas is getting compressed, that generates the compressed biogas. Like assume this particular topic as similar to the natural gas and the compressed natural gas. Clear? Now, basically the assistance regarding this particular plant which has been laid out in Maharashtra is being provided through the National Cooperative Development Corporation, NCDC, right? So this particular plant is having capacity of 12 ton of the compressed biogas daily and 75 ton of the potash from the jaggery, molasses and many other type of agri residue, which is the feed for this particular biogas plant. Not that much important, but just have an idea regarding this, that this is a multi-feed type of biogas plant. Now, when we talk about the National Cooperative Development Corporation, this is there in news, that's why have a brief idea regarding this. It was established in 1963. It is a statutory organization under the Ministry of Cooperation, which was recently formed. Okay? So, isko Ministry of Cooperation ke andar laya gaya, and this was formed in 1963. Now, what is the compressed biogas? And before that, what is the biogas? So, when we are putting any specific agri residue or jo maybe the agricultural waste material or maybe the residual material, when you are doing the anaerobic activity or the digestion of that particular biomass, that generates the combination of the gases, right? And that particular gas is known as the biogas. So that is the biogas, not the compressed one, right? So that particular biogas has the mixture of certain gases. For example, it mainly contains the methane, which is having the highest concentration, roughly 55 to 60% when we do the anaerobic digestion of this particular agri residue, then that produces more amount of methane, which is 55 to 60. Then another main component is the carbon dioxide. These two are the main component as far as the biogas are concerned. And then there are certain other residual gases that are also getting generated. For example, there may be hydrogen sulfide, maybe there water vapor may be developed, right? So these are certain other residual gases. Now, when we have to make that productive, there is a need to increase the concentration of methane in order to improve the effectiveness of that particular biogas. Now, when we are talking about the compressed biogas, when this particular biogas which is generated like this, when the methane concentration is getting increased, the other impurities and the non-utilizable gases are reduced. Like for example, the impurities like hydrogen sulfide, water vapor are getting reduced, and even the concentration of carbon dioxide is also getting reduced, and methane ko roughly you are increasing it up to 90%, and the pressure is applied on that roughly 200 to 250 bar pressure that is being applied, then this becomes the raw gas, becomes the compressed biogas CBG. Okay? So this entire unit is producing the biogas, this entire unit is increasing the concentration, and also then based upon that the pressure is applied and this is converted into the compressed biogas. Clear? So this is the phenomena. Now what is the significance? So we have previously discussed the articles regarding the ethanol and the ethanol blending. What is the significance of that? When we are producing something within the country and when we are blending it with the petroleum products which we are importing from the external world, in that case, don't you think so that when we are reducing that much amount of content which is needed, and now even if that is reduced by 20%, don't you think so that 20% का import हमने कम किया, that means the Indian money which was previously going outwards, that money is getting reduced. On the contrary, there have been employment generation because वो product जो 20% आप blend कर रहे हो, that is being developed in India. So in India, industrial development is getting increased, employment is getting increased. Similar is for this also. So when we are developing the compressed biogas, this is being utilized to produce the electricity and other form of energy. So this reduce the import of the natural gas and the crude oil, because जो काम पहले you might have been using the natural gas or crude oil, now that particular thing can be utilizing even the compressed biogas. So reduction of import is there. Next is the supporting the national climate goal, because this particular resource is comparatively lesser polluting resources, because what you are doing, the methane which is being developed, that is converted into the energy form. You are reducing the impurity. That means whatever previously the kind of, let's say, greenhouse gases or the other impurities that were getting generated, let's say through the coal and others, these things are getting reduced. Now India has taken a lot of goals, and even including the Panchamrit commitments, including the reduction of the fossil fuel based energy, then reducing the carbon intensity, carbon emission intensity, right? So all these things are also going to get prevented when we are doing more and more compressed biogas production, right? So these commitments are also going to meet. Promoting the waste management, because agri residue or these particular waste which previously used to be burned by the farmers on their field, now these things are getting collected, these are getting transported, and they are getting eventually money in return. So what they are getting support from the side of government. What the people, basically the industries are getting the raw material, and then based upon that raw material or the agri residue, there have been generation of energy. So it is a waste to energy kind of product. It provides the additional income to the farmer and generate the rural employment. So in order to cut those particular residue, in order to transport that, entire economy is needed. That's why that particular thing is also being done. Now it's not like this is the first time this particular thing regarding the compressed biogas or the biogas we are talking about. It is being talked about, like the biofuels are being talked about quite a long time back. Okay? So there is national policy on the biofuel which was laid out in 2018, which talked about the multiple stages of the development of the ethanol or the biofuels, right? The first generation, second generation, third and fourth generation. We have entirely talked about this, right? So from food products, from certain residues, for example, second generation, through the other cyanobacteria and all the third generation ones, right? Then the galvanizing organic bioagro resource dhan, which is the Gobar Dhan scheme, which was laid out government recently, which is talking about developing the agri residue se energy conversion. So waste to energy conversion through the schemes like Gobar Dhan. Apart from that, there is Satat scheme, which is the sustainable alternative towards the affordable transportation, where again we are talking about establishment of more and more biogas plant, which is going to provide more and more biogas, and that will be utilized in order to reduce the jo fossil fuel based energy resources hai, usko kam karne mein, that is going to help. So this is regarding the Satat, right? So this is regarding the compressed biogas. The last article that we have to discuss is regarding the Ministry of Mines issues the guideline for the critical mineral recycling incentive schemes, CMRIS, right? So when we are talking about the critical minerals, these are critical because they are very, very important for any specific country's economy. That's why they are the critical minerals. Now, when we are talking about critical mineral, do not get confused with the rare earth element, because rare earth element is specifically series of the 17 elements of the lanthanide series. These are only called as the rare earth element. Not all the critical minerals are the rare earth element. Not all the rare earth element are critical minerals. Rare earth element is the, or rare minerals, critical minerals are basically the designation that the government is providing based upon the economic utility. And they are important because they are important or playing important role as far as the economy of the country is concerned. Now, when we talk about GS paper 1, the resource distribution is important. That's why it is important. When we talk about GS paper 2, the government's policy schemes, like this particular policy of the Ministry of Mines, right? When we talk about GS 3, economy, environment and ecology, science and tech, again, because when you are doing the mining, that is going to cause the pollution, and that will be an important thing regarding this, right? So when we talk about the critical mineral recycling incentive scheme, that means in order to recycle the critical minerals, you are giving some incentive to those people who are recycling. That means, let's say there are kabadiwalas who are collecting certain things from your household, let's say certain electronic gadgets. Now when there is a industry which is processing these particular electronic gadgets, maybe batteries and all, when they are extracting the critical minerals from that, now this is from the secondary source these critical minerals are getting collected. This is not like the mining is being done and through that these particular minerals are being collected. These are collected through the secondary resources. Like already they were being utilized, now you are recollecting that, and that can be further again utilized in certain other products, right? So this is basically a circular economy which we are talking about. So it incentivizes the development of the recycling capacity, where we are providing this for the separation and the extraction of the critical mineral, and that will put lesser pressure on the newer mines, because otherwise capacity to aapko to chahiye critical minerals, right? Otherwise what you will do? You will do the mining or you will import. Rather than that, what you are doing, you are recollecting what is waste already, and that particular thing is again being utilized in the form of the productive economy, right? Now what are the things which we are talking about in this particular critical mineral recycling related scheme, right? So 270 kiloton of the annual recycling capacity generate karna hai. That means itna amount of material has to be recycled, and out of that 40 kilotons of annual critical mineral production. Obviously, there will be a lot of waste that will be generated. That's why out of 270, we are talking about only 40 kilotons of the critical minerals. Now, what is the government? Because when you are talking about incentive, the government has to spend the money. So 8,000 crore is the investment, and roughly 70,000 directly or indirectly the jobs are being created. Why this investment is needed? Because to provide incentive to the people who are recollecting and who are extracting the resources from the waste resources, right? In order to do that, there is a need to upgrade the existing industry, or there is a need to establish the newer plant. That's why the investment is needed. Now, what is the tenure? Whenever the scheme is, the ministry is important, Ministry of Mines in this particular case, the tenure is 6 years from 25-26A. Now, what will be the feedstock? Means what will be the input? So the input includes the e-waste. Whatever e-waste is there, there is some amount of critical minerals that are part of that. Then the spent जो life जिनकी खत्म हो चुकी है, the end of life products like the lithium ion batteries are there, other scrap material where there is no such utility that is available for those. Now, what are the incentives? This is important. So here, at the time of the capital production, that means industrial setup or existing setup को revamp करने के लिए, there is 20% capital subsidy that is being provided. So the capex subsidy is capped at 20%. जो initial investment होगा उसका 20%. Then there is further operational expenditure. So OPEX expenditure is there, and that will be provided when you will meet certain targets. So for example, after second year and fifth year, these incentives are being provided. कुछ targets दिए जाएंगे if you are able to match that particular target, like in the form of generation of the critical mineral. If you are able to do that, then you will get the 40% in the second year, 60% in the fifth year. That will be the operational expenditure का portion, right? So the incentives are being provided. Now the beneficiary कौन है? Both type of beneficiaries will be there, who are establishing the new units or who are utilizing the existing unit, but they are doing the capacity building of their existing units. Now, what is the significance of the recovery or the recycling of the critical minerals? Now see, there is the limited number of minerals that are available in India, because ऐसा नहीं कि all the minerals can be extracted within India. It's not possible also, right? So sometimes we have to then import certain minerals, maybe lithium from certain countries, like the countries prominently of the lithium triangle countries, maybe certain other rare earth element, maybe from China and other countries. Now this creates the dependency. When we are already having this much amount of rare earth element or the critical element in the economy, if we are able to develop those from the waste to again reutilizable form mein, in that case we can reduce the import dependence and we can create a sustainable value chain. That's why this particular scheme is there. So supply security ensure karega. So we need not to only dependent on the mining or the primary production. We can even get the mineral from the secondary supply also through the robust supply chain in the form of the waste to again utilizable product. Next is the sustainability. Because see, when you are doing mining, the mining is causing a lot of impact on the environment. How? Because of the gases that are being released, because of the carbon dioxide emission, right? And if we are utilizing this, if we are reusing it again, then that particular thing is getting reduced, right? So that's why 80% less greenhouse gas emission that can be there if we are utilizing this particular process. That means from the waste to the utilizable product. So whether it is the supply security, whether it is sustainability, on both the front, it is important. And when the country India, which is right now on the growth trajectory, when we are talking about a lot of schemes where there have been a lot of push towards the green energy, and for that we need certain kind of new equipments, for example the battery infrastructure, right? And for that the critical minerals are very, very important. That's why we need to find the alternatives, and this is one such alternative. Now the broader scheme which we are talking about, under which this particular recycling related scheme is being developed, which is the National Critical Mineral Mission. So NCCM, NCMM, which is the National Critical Mineral Mission. This is the apex mission under which this particular scheme is being implemented. So the National Critical Mineral Mission includes both the mining of the new critical minerals and also the reutilization of the existing ones, right? What is the ministry? Again, Ministry of Mines. What is the target year? 24-25 to 30-31 tak. This is the time period under which this particular critical mineral mission is getting implemented. Now, the objective is to ensure or secure the critical mineral supply chain in India. So, the critical mineral supply chain ko ensure karne ke liye, whether it is from the indigenous production through the mines or from recycling or from import, those particular supply chains should not get disrupted. Recently, you might have heard that China have denied the access to the rare earth magnet. Now, when those rare earth magnet are important equipment in order to do or develop certain automobile related equipments, agar ye deny kar diya jata hai, in that case, India is having no other options to get that particular product at that cost. Because otherwise, if we are going to import it from other countries, which is having capability or through which we can import those, that might be costly. So we have to make it cost effective also. That's why we have to ensure the supply chain development jahan par interruption na ho. Now, what are the key targets regarding this particular scheme? The key targets include 1200 domestic critical mineral exploration project. This is about the project. Recycling capacity of the 400 kilotons. Filing of the 1000 patent across the value chain, because the patent ke liye you need to have certain some kind of methods in order to extract, in order to mine and all, and that's why the patent ke bare mein bhi bola gaya. And apart from that, establishment of the center of excellence that will be later on replicated in different places in order to extract those. So this is about the National Critical Mineral Mission, right? Now, PYQs, already when we had discussed this topic for the first time, we have talked about these particular PYQ, whether it is regarding the major minerals जो government ने designate किए थे, या फिर this particular year का question, mineral resources are fundamental to the country's economy. These are exploited by mining. Why the mining is considered as the environment hazard? So you have to provide the alternative, and the alternative is like this: for government under the National Critical Mineral Mission, the recycling can be one such thing which can be put as the alternative. Explain the remedial measures required to reduce the environmental hazard. Next is regarding the rare earth element. Again, there is the entire question. You can answer this and you can post this in the comments also. Next is regarding the personality news. So there have been two personalities which we are covering right now. They are part of the one news only, but two separate personality we'll cover separately. So recently Prime Minister paid tribute to the freedom fighters, including the Tirupur Kumaran and the Subramaniya Siva on their birth anniversary. Whenever the Prime Minister or any other prominent personality pays tribute to any specific personality related to Indian history, then you should have an idea regarding that personality. Because कई बार बहुत easy question आ जाते हैं, but having no idea about those personality, we are not in a position to mark the answer. That's why have an idea about those personality if there is any prominent event or text associated with them. So regarding the Tirupur Kumaran, he is related to the Erode district of Tamil Nadu. Now there is a organization which was found by him, includes the Desbandhu Youth Association. This particular association was to develop the nationalistic conscience among the masses. Now the lifespan that you can see, in very young age he martyred, right? So that means he contributed significantly in the very young age only, and he got inspired by the non-violent and the civil disobedience movement of Mahatma Gandhi ji, and then in order to save the Indian flag, he even gave away his life. He did not allow that particular flag to fall on the ground. That's why he also got the title of Kodikatha Kumaran, right? The Kumaran who saved the flag. Now this kind of statement can be asked like Kodikatha Kumaran was recently in news, was associated with which particular event? चार event दे देंगे, इनमें एक event होगा कि during the protest movement he saved this particular flag, and this particular movement was also in 1932 only, the year when he died, right? So this can be an easy answer if you have any awareness regarding what personality he is. The next important personality that we have to discuss is regarding the Subramaniya Siva. Now again Tamil Nadu state, but the Dindigul district he belonged to. Now there were certain texts that were written by him, including the books, including Ramanuja Vijayam and Madhava Vijayam, right? So Ramanujacharya or Madhavacharya ke bare mein he wrote. Apart from that, there was a monthly journal that he wrote about the Gnana Bhanu, right? So Gnana Bhanu or Gyana Bhanu, which is written by him. So he was also an advocate of the Swadeshi movement, right? So when the Swadeshi movement was launched, he was also promoting the Swadeshi related ideals. Apart from that, he also established in earlier 20th century, he established the Dharma Paripalana Sabha. Now do not get confused with the Sri Narayan Guru Dharma Paripalana Yogam, which is SNDP movement of Sri Narayan Guru. This is separate. Now belonging to the Brahmin community in the Tamil Nadu region, he also worked upon and he also talked about the Tamil pride, right? He was a staunch supporter of the Tamil pride in that particular context. He actively supported the non-cooperation movement inspired by Mahatma Gandhi and V.O. Chidambaram Pillai. Okay? So this is regarding the Subramaniya Siva. Now there are certain other quick updates. Let's quickly see these. First is regarding the Konkan exercise. Whenever there is any military exercise, Navy exercise, Air Force exercise, just have an idea about which two countries are taking part, what kind of exercise this is, right? So this is a naval exercise that was conducted between India and UK. So Indian Navy and the UK's Royal Navy have conducted the bilateral exercise Konkan 25, which commenced on the Indian western coast. Now the UK का जो carrier था, which was the HMS Prince of Wales, and India का कौन सा था? INS Vikrant. These are the aircraft carriers which had taken participation. So Konkan 25, India and UK Navy. Next is regarding commercial coal mining. Commercial coal mining in very simple term is when you are allowing a company to mine the coal and sell it in the market, that is the commercial coal mining. Other type of mining is the captive use के लिए. That means suppose कर if there is an electricity generation company that is utilizing or doing the coal related extraction and that is utilizing in its own company. They are not selling it commercially. So captive use was already allowed previously, but the commercial selling was not allowed. It was allowed only in 2018. ठीक है? So it is to encourage the transparent pricing of coal, because when you are allowing the companies to sell the coal in market, that means there is no such monopoly of any one company, let's say the Coal India Limited, and that means the competitive prices can be promoted, the prices can brought down because the competition is high. Now the first commercial coal mine in Arunachal Pradesh is inaugurated in the Namchik Namphuk coal block. So UPSC can even ask, Namchik Namphuk region or the coal block was recently in news, was associated with Arunachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Hyderabad, maybe Andhra Pradesh, like this they can trick you, right? So the commercial coal mining. Next is regarding the Meghla Pass. So under the project Himank, the BRO has constructed the highest motorable road. Previously, it was also constructed by BRO only, so BRO had broken its own record. Previous was in the Umlingla Pass, now it is in the Meghla Pass. UPSC can ask regarding region, which region it is associated with. It is related to the Ladakh region. Now, Likaru Meghla Phukche axis, which is basically a junction related region. So it is connecting the Phukche airfield to the LAC, which is very near to LAC. So this pass is connecting the Phukche airfield, and that means the supplies can be now provided very easily, right? Location क्या है? Changthang Plateau, which is in the Ladakh region. Project Himang जो है, which is the BRO's project, launched in 1985 in order to develop the motorable road in the difficult region, specifically in the Ladakh. Next is regarding Net Polar X exercise, right? So this is basically the Indian Coast Guard का exercise है, which is the national level pollution response exercise, Net Pol Rex X. ठीक है? National level pollution response exercise. And what kind of pollution? It is because of the oil spill. So since it is a Coast Guard exercise, it has to do something with the maritime pollution and specifically related to the oil related spill, maritime oil related spill. So it is a biennial flagship exercise which aims to evaluate and enhance India's preparedness in order to respond the marine oil spill incidents. Recently, that there had been a incident that had happened, I think in the month of May, on the coast of Kerala regarding the oil spill. So the Coast Guard की ability को boost करने के लिए in order to deal with this thing, because they will be the first responder. That's why these kind of exercises are important. Next is regarding the Kosi River, generally also known as the sorrow of Bihar, right? Because of the excessive floodings. So overflowing of the Kosi River has raised the risk of floods and landslides in the Bihar and Nepal region, because this starts from Nepal, also flows through Bihar, and then eventually joins the Ganga River, right? So it is a transboundary river, originates in the Tibetan region, okay, then flows the Nepal region and also then comes to India. So Tibet के southern part से flow होती है, then Nepal से flow होती है, then apart from that it also passes through India, right? So forms the confluence at the three streams, which is San Kosi, Arun Kosi and Tamur Kosi, and then the entire river stream known as the Sapt Kosi, right? That in confluence point के बाद Sangam के बाद that flows as the Sapt Kosi and then passes through the Nepal and India, right? So major tributaries क्या है? Major tributaries of the Ganga joins in Bihar. So it joins Ganga in the region of Bihar. Sorrow of Bihar भी बोला जाता है because of the excessive flooding sometime. Mount Everest and the Kanchenjunga falls in its catchment area. So this is an important fact that you can have an idea about. When we talk about the tributaries, Kamla and the Bagmati are the tributaries, right? So originates in the southern part of Tibet, then flows in the Nepal, and then ultimately passes through India, and then eventually merge with Ganga, and then flows with Ganga, right? So the Kosi River. Next is, and last is the Coral Triangle. So basically what happened recently, the Philippines have launched the Coral Larvae Cryobank in order to preserve the reef biodiversity by freezing the coral seeds for the future restoration and the research. So this cryopreservation is basically at the very extreme low temperature पे preserve करके रखना, so that by later on defrosting that can be utilized again. That can be preserved in the alive form, right? So it is a part of the wider regional initiative in order to create a regional network of cryobank across the Coral Triangle. Now what is this Coral Triangle we are talking about? Now you can see this is the region of the Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia mein, this is the region of Malaysia, then there is Indonesia, Philippines, then Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Island. So the combining region of this roughly 6 million square kilometer area within the sea, including the islands and the other region of the 6 countries, this is part of this Coral Triangle. Okay? The countries can be asked, just have an idea about which countries are part of this. Now, why this is Coral Triangle? Because coral ki majority of the species are available over here, right? So roughly we can say 5.7 or 6 million square around kilometer area hai. World's richest marine biodiversity hotspot. That means a large amount of biodiversity is available in this particular region लगभग 75% of the world's coral species, not exactly the coral का number, but the coral species available, 1/3 of the all reef fish species available, means the species के बारे में बोला जा रहा है, not about the amount, right? The vast mangrove forest, so all the productive regions of the marine ecosystem are available in majority in this particular region. That's why this particular coral triangle is very important biodiversity hotspot in this particular region, right? So it is sometimes also known as the Amazon forest of the seas. So Amazon of seas is also alternate name of the coral triangle. Okay? So this is regarding the coral triangle. The cryobank is being developed under the leadership of Philippines, which has launched this recently. So with this, we have completed the news today discussion for the 5th and the 6th of October. We have tried to discuss it comprehensively for the needed articles. We have tried to cover it in a crisp manner for the aspects which has to be covered in a factual basis. I hope the things are clear to you, and whatever question I have asked, now it is your responsibility in order to write those, in order to post those, and have the integrity within you in order to solve those particular questions, because these are very, very important. Now there are certain other questions that must be there on your screen. Attempt those questions because these are very, very important. Along with that, visit this particular portal, the Digital Current Affairs portal, in order to utilize the further benefits of current affairs. Okay? So thank you very much. We'll meet again.